Hey, students, it's Dr. Bushman. I wanted to take a couple of minutes to, one, thank you for your participation in the course, and I hope you're learning a lot about risk management. And in particular, what I wanted to talk about was why we use um, what is called business process mapping and notation. This is why we're using lucid charts. And again, it is a real world skill that you put on your resume. It is something that you can take some courses and get a certification in, and industries, all kinds of industries use this skill. So I wanted to show you an example of what it looks like in real life since we have been learning some data visualization tools. So this is something that my company did, my personal company, um, and I want to go to actually their headquarters in Massachusetts first. Did as a uh, continuous process improvement risk management study for them. And so this is the actual report that we turned in. See this, and we did multiple sites. This happens to be their headquarters. And what we were looking at, let me get down to some of the workflow, was actually their digital workflow and how they were processing and passing along their files. So I will shrink that down a little bit. The headquarters, here's what the situation was happening was they had some great uh, digital scientists on board. And they had created this really, really good workflow. And as you can see, most of it is green and yellow. We're doing the heat map chart this week. So this is kind of a way that you can visualize how we use these colors, and also how we use shapes. So the shapes on this chart, for instance, the square is just a process. The parallelogram, or the name of the process, the parallelogram, which is this diagram, actually describes a particular process where things are getting processed, or work is being done. And then, of course, the directional arrows, right? So even the shapes have meaning. So in business process mapping and notation, you actually learn what these shapes mean and how to use them. So for instance, down here at the bottom, you have a square set on its point. That simply means there's a decision that needs to be made, and that decision or that process can go in two different ways. In this case, it was a pass fail. And then after that, what do you do if it passes or fails? But you'll notice the big point here is not only the use of the mapping, but also the use of color. And so they did a great job. Most of what they were doing was pretty good. Excuse me, but it wasn't perfect. And part of it was they had not updated some of their digital and file transfer processes out to their plants in actually about a decade. But they had some other really good processes. This is what that process, all of those processes wrapped together, looked like when we were done. Now, to give you an idea of how much this type of work pays, um, we were charging $5,000 a day, minimum of 3 days to engage us, plus T&E, and that was pre-COVID. So I'm sure that the services are more expensive than that. I paid the person who was at the beginning of this report $1,000 a day, and the rest went to my company. So it could be very lucrative. Now, keep in mind, I did sit on two global ANSI standard committees for quality control in the publishing industry. So we did command, premium prices. But, over your career, when you are also accomplished, you can charge those kind of prices too, even probably earlier in your career, in today's date. So another one of the processes, everything green is green, streamlined processes all throughout. So now let me show you what was going on the plant side. So this is in Canada at their plant. Now, let me digress a little bit here. So one of their plants, this is Cimpress, is one of the largest publishing houses in the world. And this plant alone was roughly 300,000 square feet. That's the size of a small auto manufacturing complex. And every one of the different plants across the world in the United States, and they have many of them, is run by a set of vice presidents. And basically, the vice presidents were using measurements, right? Risk measurement, etc. And they were showing kind of this chart. Oh, our customer service is 4.4 out of 5, 4.8 out of 5. People love us, right? We don't have any problems at the plant. We're doing great. Problem was they were losing the company as a whole, about $43 million a year in waste. They had a massive quality control issue. And the reality is they should have been looking at this data visualization tool, which basically says your customers are giving you a 2 out of 5. And the reality is their customers were leaving and going other places that produced higher quality product at the same prices. And the headquarters in Waltham couldn't understand why. Well, that's because even though the company was called a value stream organization, VSO organization, the management was not rolling up correct, or I want to say they were only telling part of the story in regard to what was happening. So headquarters brought us in, and here's just some other digital maps and some risk areas we're looking in. And when we took a look at their manufacturing processes, this is what we found. Yellow, red, orange, nothing was green. It was just an abysmal mess. Another process, and the only reason why these three are green is simply because they were pass fail, and it either passed or failed, so you couldn't get any better than that. But red, notice the use of colors. This immediately got the attention of the executives going, holy cow, almost all of our workflow needs to be optimized, and we have work stoppages everywhere. Red is a total failure. It's a work stoppage. And these were the areas that were causing the product quality to be so low. Another one. So let me show you what it looks like when we're finished. And this is just a chart that shows how we reconfigured a lot of their processing systems. But this chart now demonstrates their new process, their new workflow. And notice everything is green, everything's optimized. And when we got done, we increased their quality by about twofold on their quality. And some of the machines that you're actually looking at seeing are multi-million-dollar digital presses as well as $10-20 million offset presses, because that was the output device. And we did do consulting for those, but our specialty was in the digital file workflow, digital workflow. Another process, right? Fully all green. And so, and here's a little statement about their VSO management. Here they're a VSO management company, and yet they're not even reporting on the right data. And again, we put some other data that we found into our presentation with visual tools. So I think you can see the value of a visual tool. You could try to explain those workflow charts in 1,000 words or 1,000,000 words, or you can just put up a business mapping and business process mapping and notation chart, and they can see it instantly. because all the yellow and the red instantly brought about a conversation and showed them, got their attention to what was actually happening. And by the way, the outcome of this was the some of the vice presidents who were not reporting up what was actually happening lost their jobs about 2.5 months after we delivered the reports. They did implement every one of our recommendations, and the quality assurance team that brought us in, both the of those people got promoted, and they now run quality control for the global operations. So at any rate, I thought it might be really helpful to actually see a real world example of why you're doing what you're doing. And all those type of jobs are typically maybe starting range is 60 to 80, but after 3 to 5 years on the job, they're all typically six-figure jobs, if you're skilled at what you do. So anyway, I hope that was helpful, and I'm glad to have you in class.